Bro,
Yeah.
what's up, bro?
Like I'm the oven dog. Yo.
Pray.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got the
I
right
know
thing
this
on.
joint. I know that. Nah, look, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this man needs no introduction. When I entered DC about 7, 8 years ago, this was one of those landmark people, you know, one of those people that embraced me from when I came from Morgan State by way of New York. So during this quarantine, I wanted to, I had this on my spirit for a while throughout my position, Tony, in the city, in your city. And I was paying attention and keeping my head down on doing such a good job, like being a good worker with what I was set to in DC to do, that I put this to the side. But the timing couldn't be more better to highlight not just DC, but the chocolate city DC, you know, and maybe even give some people a reminder and even educate some of us that are not from the city, that migrated there at some point or passed through or visit. So I just thought, seeing that you turned 40 the other day,
Yeah.
milestone. Happy birthday to
Thank
you.
you, man. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Big milestone for you, especially where you coming from. And you know, you never let your circumstances dictate your future. And I see that that's what you're doing with your wife, with your family. And I just wanted to
So,
kick this city off with somebody like you, because not only do you hold DC to such a regard and you carry it on your back everywhere that you go, but you turning 40 puts you in a position in my eyes as, and me knowing your backstory and what you're doing with the youth and with you know, the next generations that are coming up in DC, you're like the perfect middle child of DC when it comes to, if somebody wants to get a perspective of our nation's capital from the lens of somebody that grew up in the 80s, the crack epidemic, you know, real big with that in Washington D.C. being the biggest city in the country to reach 50% African American demographic back in the day, right? So
yeah.
that was the, like, where the chocolate city came from, along with
Mm-hmm.
everything else that was going on that we'll talk about. But I just wanted to give that intro so that people understand, and so that you understand also, that I look at DC as like an extended home at this point. So I wanted to take this charge to talk to native Washingtonians like yourself that has such a big voice and such a big influence, and just, you know, dig in and put a magnifying glass, especially with all that's going on right now. We already know, I would definitely want us to talk about that, but I want our conversation to have a timeline aspect, because I want to take you back to, you know, when you was born 1980, and then your father 1989, and then everything thereafter. So if you could just tell us, Tony, what was DC, the real DC, and what did it look like from your perspective as a young 9-year-old? Like, let's go to that point right before Pops went away, and where you was at growing up.
All right, so I'm gonna just like really start with like coming like real quick up to until I'm 9, right? So I'm from Hanover Place.
Yeah.
That's in Northwest Washington. That's about 10 blocks from the Capitol.
Right.
My street was like the first, what people would call open air drug market for cocaine in the city. And I grew up in an environment that was 100% African American, and not just on my block, but potentially like everywhere I went in DC, aside from Georgetown, right?
Gotcha.
Even DC. And so when you hear that term chocolate city, now I was born in 80, so up into 89, like we had African Americans represented probably 75% of the population through that time,
Gotcha.
right? And so when you hear the term chocolate city, it's not just about the residents. We talking about even police officers. We talking about teachers, doctors.
Right.
You know, everywhere you turn, it was somebody black. You know what I mean?
Right.
Black professionals. Even if they didn't obviously, our mayor at the time, Marion Barry, our police chief, right? And I wanna pivot and come back to that and what that really means as related to the system when we get on Floyd. But yeah, I'm growing up in DC, and DC was the crack capital, right, of the United States.
Right.
And my father went to prison in 89. You know, like I said, you had communities filled all throughout DC. A lot of times the black community get crafted now in terms of like Ward 7 and 8, but we grew up in a time where everywhere you turn, every street you was on, all uptown, upper northeast, wherever, it was black folks,
everywhere.
right? Everywhere.
And not just from a street guy level, but all your...
That's what I'm saying, the entire gamut, right? The entire gamut, not just on the hood side, on the entire gamut. And really, the reality of it is also crack impacted DC in such a severe way that we had so many working class, middle class communities, right? But people became addicted to drugs. The conversation around the crack epidemic is typically from the drug dealer perspective. And what I wanted to do with Slug was to show the fullness, right? How it impacts. So it really took a lot of, whether it was Howard professors, whether it was, you know, doctors or government workers that got addicted, and it changed the dynamics not only of their households but also of their community. Right. So people my age, growing up in that, right, the adults were taken away from us, right? So whether it was due to incarceration, due to premature death, you know, it was, you know, we was also the murder capital, not in that at the same time, really, and particularly going into the 90s. It was, you know, about 86, 87 is when the violence started to like kick up, right? But the 90s was incredibly violent. Wow. Right, the 80s was violent to a certain degree, but the 90s was incredibly violent. While
crack is still dominant.
Yeah, so while crack is still dominant, I mean, you got to look. The crack epidemic probably is 86 to 96 if we had to put a period on it. Right. But the DC was like the murder capital from like 91 to maybe 96, 97. I think us in New Orleans like traded spots, but all the way through the 90s, even into like the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what we grew up in that. So I'm 10 and 9. My father go to jail when I'm 9. My dad is a part of the biggest conspiracy in the history of District of Columbia before or after. You know, they had a trial that was like akin to like the OJ trial in terms of publicity.
Yo, I love that you just went there because, of course, as I'm, you know, building out this vision for DC to have this chocolate city story told and whatnot. So I'm doing my research. I'm looking up videos. I'm reading and all of that. And I watched that joint and one of the clips on YouTube that just has how, and they focused on how they treated the trial from like they flown in your pops from in the helicopters.
Yeah.
The jury was blocked off from
what they call sequestered jury, bulletproof glass. They housed them at Quantico Marine Base, right? And so, you know, like those memories are still that stuff is still etched in my memory. Like the crazy thing about when they was at Quantico was Quantico again is a Marine base, so they had like a cell block that's like out in the field. It's not a prison, right? It's a Marine base, literally, right? And so you got Marines with M16s, and when you go visit, there's no visiting hall because it's not a prison. They got like cells for like when Marines get out of line, you know? So anyway, we used to have to go visit him literally at the cell, right? Like no visitor. You visit like literally he on one side of the bars, we on the other side of the bars in a very literal way. So what would happen is they would get flown by military helicopter into the city, get on a van, and then taken to court. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and subsequently they would receive life without the possibility of parole. And that was 31 years ago. My father's still incarcerated. But what that did for me, you know, obviously my world got turned upside down, you know, and my mother, you know, the stress and the trauma of that, you know, it really broke my mom. Then me and her got carjacked shortly. Just another speaking to some of the other elements, right? We got carjacked in like 1990, and I ain't really had my mother back since then. You know what I'm saying? In the way that she was prior to. And so, you know, but many kids like me had my father get life. My mother, you know, is stricken with mental illness. And
the direct result of when Pops went away.
The direct result, you know what I'm saying? And not even in the result also of, but both of my parents are from the exact same street, like the same street I live on. My parents, everybody in my family from both sides of my family.
So they grew up together.
They grew up together. They literally grew up together, right? But the traumas that they experienced together in this community, right? You got to think that already was like a part of it. And then also my dad's lifestyle. You know, I grew up, man, in a time too. We talk about DC at that time where, you know, the potential of us being kidnapped was real.
That's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily just Tony Lewis Jr. now is going to follow in the footsteps, but it's also while you're just an innocent kid, like possibility of getting, you know, tangled into the
no question. That's definitely like when my father was you know, sort of the pinnacle of the lifestyle that he was in, right? He was the apex, right? And so, like, all my life up until the point of him going to jail, that was a very, very real reality. And even after, you know, like I said, we got carjacked after. I don't know if that would have happened, you know, when he was out. You know what I'm saying? So that's another dynamic, right? Your family is no longer protected. But coming up, I was always taught, you know, not to tell nobody where we live, not to ever mention where we live. Like when we had a crib out in Maryland, you know what I'm saying? Never to, you know, people couldn't stay over our house. We didn't even stay at the house. Really, we just went there to go to sleep. But my point, you know what I'm saying, was I grew up like that. I grew up always remembering directions, always remember, because if somebody ever grabbed me, I could say, you know what I'm saying? These were real things for me. You know what I mean?
The instinct was, your instincts were always high because of what
sure, and had to be, and like drills though. I mean that literally. I used to have to go through drills, like how we get home from here, or which way do we go? How do we get to grandma? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Because it was really that's the lifestyle. That's what was happening in DC. Right. We had family, we had friends of ours, you know, who my father's buddies, who people had, you know what I'm saying, followed them home.
Yeah.
Snatched their kids. They might have got the kids back, but also the drug dealers themselves, like, was getting snatched back then. You feel me? Like a dude, we men do might kidnap a man. That was a real thing. That was the DC. That was part of the, you know, the lifestyle. And you know, so like that level of trauma as a child, you know what I'm saying, and then losing my dad, who was a very hands-on father, you know, did homework with me, you know what I'm saying? We traveled, like all that. My dad was a hands-on at 20.
And then it just came to a stop. Like
it came to a screeching halt. You know what I'm saying? He got life without parole.
So then how did you function all of that? Because what I'm seeing, like, I'm seeing a whole movie for real.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, like, so at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, that whole span, you're being taught all these different, like, advanced ways
survival type,
early.
For sure.
So at school, right? Like, let's take it to school for a second. Like, so when you're at school, I would like to believe that you knew that you were different than probably all, if not majority of the
and I went to Catholic school, right? So everybody else parents worked. You know what I'm saying? They had professional parents.
Right.
Now, but what was crazy though is that for me, I knew we were different. I was very clear on that, right? But not to the degree that I didn't understand it fully, because that's all I knew. See, like, I didn't know nobody that had a job. Like, no, not just, see, this is like, I come from, like, crack didn't turn my neighborhood up. My neighborhood and my mother's family, right, had been a staple in the underworld since the 30s and the 40s. My grandfather.
Oh, so this goes back.
This goes back for us, right? So I don't know, my mother's brothers, my uncles, they kind of, me and my dad joke about this a lot, because they raised him. They the ones who brought him off the porch, as we say. Right. My mother's brothers, and you know what I'm saying, when he went away, like, they raised me too. You know, it's like we always joke we got the same OGs or whatever. But the reality why I'm bringing that up is that, like, in our neighborhood, you know, these things were like commonplace. Drug dealer, bank robbing, these type of the gambling, the underworld. That's how people survive where I came from. So when people used to ask me, what's your, you know, they'll ask you that in class, like, what do your parents do for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would make up something every other day. You know what I'm saying?
What was the craziest thing that you could remember? Like,
the crazy thing, I remember I told one day, I think I said, like, my father wanted, he was training to be an astronaut or some shit. It's probably like 3rd or 4th grade, because I was a little older. And I remember that, because I did that on purpose. Like, yeah, he about to be an astronaut.
About to be an astronaut.
And then look, but then he come pick me up. He come pick me up in a Porsche one day, a BMW the next day, a Benz. And I know, and so you hear, even in my hood though, with my friends, like, you know, like you know, your friends always, my friends knew too. I was different there, and I was different at home.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
But how you juggling that at 9 years? Like, how you juggling it?
But it's my only norm.
And still staying solid.
Still all the way solid. You know, this is the thing, though. My father grew up extremely poor, right?
Right.
And he used to, every time we went somewhere, every time we went in, you know, this daily shit, shopping every day, all this stuff we doing.
Right.
He always grounded me, though. You know, he always said, Slug, who you want to bring with you, whether it was my cousins or some of my friends, and he always used to tell me, just remember, none of this stuff don't mean it, just don't make us. You know what I'm saying? And you're not better than nobody because you got this and they don't. You understand? That was embedded in me. And anytime I acted otherwise, right, I got reprimanded for that. It was no room for that. It was no room to act as if you were better than, and you know, it was always about giving and helping out our hood. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of who I am today, like, that's who I was raised to be. It's not even like
that's
no thing.
Like, bro, you're since I've, like, personal testimony real quick is just the fact that since I've been in the city working for 7-8 years, bro, you're at everything. I'm talking nothing's too small. If there's something going on in Ward 8 that is only going to garner like 30 people, 40, 50, it don't matter to you.
Yeah,
From
that's right.
To the hundreds and the thousands and the stuff that, bro, that's always been you.
Yeah,
always.
bro, because that's, you know, it's always genuine with me, and like, because I'm accountable to those people, and I'm accountable to that history and that standard, right? That guides me. You know what I'm saying? But like when he went in, the crazy part about it, when they went in, DC just got, like I was saying, progressively more violent, and now I don't have him.
So now we 1990. So
yeah, now we 90. So we going 80 now. We going into the 90s, right?
So what's going on now?
Murder capital. DC stand for Dodge City.
And that headline took over the crack epidemic. While the crack epidemic headline,
well, it was a part of that. They were synonymous, right? They're together. We had, you know, shows like a joint called City Under Siege, which started in probably like 87.
Okay.
When it we're highlighting all the violence.
You said City Under Siege?
City Under Siege. Yeah, and I write about that. Actually, that's how I found out my father was arrested. We saw it on City Under Siege, right? City Under Siege was just show that DC's violence and drug culture was so heavy that I think it was Fox 5 at 11 o'clock every night. The show was strictly about drug busts and murders.
They had a whole segment on
a whole show, like a 30-minute show. Yeah, anybody from DC that grew up in that time will tell you about City Under Siege, and so you also got to think about this in DC, right? Where now, depending on where you lived in the city, you had a heavy influx of New York hustlers. You had a heavy influx of Jamaican hustlers. You feel me? The people was coming to the city because the market, right? It was no place on earth had as many people that wanted drugs like DC.
But Tony, let me ask you this, and to stay right there. But all right, because being out of towners usually look at DC as, oh, the White House, you know, all the landmark stuff, right? So my thing is, from even the street level, there was no fear of, yo, this is the capital, the data, or not. It was just getting with all the hoods of DC and getting it popping pretty much. Like,
but the streets talk though, like the streets talk, like people say, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think for a lot of people was coming here like almost sometimes unaware of our culture. Like, they was coming here like, yo, we can go, especially like people coming from New York or like people, Jamaicans, whatever, coming like, yo, we gonna come there and set up shop. And in a lot of cases, that went the wrong way. You feel me? That went the wrong way because yeah, but at the time it took, and then some people came and was successful. But the thing about DC was, you couldn't come. You never gonna come here and take over. You can come here and build relationships and rapport and do it that way. But that's a whole we'll be on a whole nother show for that.
Right.
But the reality of it is, with my father and them leaving, right, when them out the way, then you gotta think. So my father and them went to prison in '89. You had R Street was another. What I'm about to name all big, you know, cases, right? After them, it was R Street, and then it was P Street. All three of them situations is like, you know, within 2-3 blocks of where I live at.
First and O is First and O a part of that?
First and O, yeah, that's my hood though. Yeah, that's here. You know what I'm saying? Then you got the R Street crew, you got P Street crew. There's these big conspiracies. Then you get the Newton Street crew uptown. You got the First Street joints. All these conspiracies happen between like 89 and 93. Gotcha. And then also you got, you know, the dude Poe and Wayne, they don't happen in like 92, 93 too. But there was so you know, now my father and them leave, it was like this big vacuum. You know, people was vying for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what's going on with now that they're out of place? Like, how is these?
Yeah, everybody's scrambling. That's what I'm talking about. When you hear all this influx of these people from different places and other guys within the city. So that's when you start seeing these murders, like, and again, right after that is like, so right after that, that's like my generation, right? So like we by 93, we 13.
Right.
And by the time we 13, a lot of our parents addicted, a lot of our parents dead, a lot of our parents locked up. So this is the time where, you know, my generation in this city, man, really raised themselves. And that's when you saw the murder rate really skyrocket. That's when you saw teen pregnancy out the window. Right? We grew up in, that's what I grew up in. Not them, but at the same time, right, the culture though, like the Chocolate City culture was still thriving so thick. And then, you know, obviously, you know, staples like go-go music, right? The fashion with the Madness shop that started in like 85, 86.
Wow.
You know, if we going there, like Madness was just something that was like, and you know, Madness was started by like authentic, let me just use that word, some of the most authentic guys, right? Like really authentic.
What about shooters? Is this
so shooters is a 90s thing, right? So Madness in the 80s.
Madness
in the 80s, Madness in the joint over Southeast called DDTP. Okay. But in the 90s, yeah, that's on Pennsylvania Avenue on the South Side. But in the 90s, then it's sort of the offshoots, you know, you get shooters, you get We Are One, you get All Days, right? You get you know, a lot of little other joints that popped up. Madness sort of set the trend, you know what I mean? Some people would say even like, you know, the Puff was aware of like Madness, and like the idea of like Sean John may be tied to that. You understand what I'm saying? And those guys,
it gotta be.
Yeah, it is, man. And so like what happened too with us, I think a lot of times, right? This is the other thing about what Chocolate City did. You didn't really care about anything else or anywhere else, right? So you may travel, right, or whatever, but we never had a mouthpiece. We never had anybody to really share our stories. We didn't even care. Like all I ever cared about was that my hood was proud of me. I didn't care if I would be, even some people right now in my, you know, they're like, Tony, you should do more national stuff, and maybe I should. But my thing is that like, I just wanted to make DC proud of me, because you know why? It's so hard to make DC proud of you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so if DC proud of you, it's like you jumped the moon. You know what I'm saying? But I think that culture, right, and how we never really necessarily ventured out. Like I don't know if Madness ever thought about, you know, that core client was like, and for all those, for All Days, for We Are One, for shooters, you know, for DDT, that core client, that core target audience was the guy on the corner. And in this city, nobody else was more influential. Now, you know, we grew up in the term of the term influencer. In DC, that was our influencers. Right. Even in the book I write about, like, man, listen, bro. And like, okay, I'm talking about my father, so obviously, like, some people would think like I'm biased. But if I'm not even talking about my father. Right. I'm gonna talk about another person. Like, say if I brought up a guy, God rest his soul, a guy like, his name was Michael Frey Salters, right? Okay. Frey might have been one of the most influential. He was more influential than Doug Williams. You understand what I'm saying? If we get, you know, who was the quarterback for the Washington Redskins, Super Bowl quarterback. What Frey said, or what Frey wore, or where Frey went to eat, had more of an impact on us than what Doug Williams did.
Organic.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't no social media. We didn't care about, like, those guys was cool. Anybody who played on the Bullets at the time, like a Moses Malone or whatever, right? Cool. Like DC the street culture here was the dominant culture, is what I'm getting to. It was the most influential culture. It was more influential than sports, more influential in politics. And if you were in those lanes, for you to be known, you had to be attached to the streets in some way.
Had to be because it was everywhere. And DC being, what is it, 10 by 10?
10 by 10.
10 by 10.
10 by 10. Small place, man.
And I think this is why I have such an affinity and such a love for DC, because it being so small in size, if we're just talking about
sure, it's small, very small. Very small.
Influence, bro, you know, we done traveled, right? Travel. Yeah. I have heard one person, and I put this on everything I love, not one person, and maybe they're out there, but me personally, anytime DC comes up, great time.
Yeah, people like it. Yeah, man.
Of DC.
That's why people, a place like this is why DC, I don't care if you go to Howard or you go to Georgetown, right? Or any of the other schools in between. My point is that people come here and don't go back. For real, it's evident. That's why so many people. I mean, and I think obviously it's like LA or New York City, and you know, if people move to those places sometimes for something specific, right? If I'm in the financial world or the fashion world or the entertainment, but when you come to DC, sometimes people don't even intend to stay. They come here.
And that's the thing. You could come in with the intentions of I'm only doing a week, 2 weeks, whatever your duration is, and then you realize that things just click for you. Like DC to me has like this electrifying, like lightning bolt type of feel to it, bro. And
but Flex, let me tell you something.
I feel like the spark never goes out.
It don't. But what's ill, right, is that this was crazy. When you from here, though, you know, it's so much about your own city that you don't even experience or consider. And it's amazing how somebody can live in DC and have two completely polar opposite experiences, even as a black person. It's not just about, you know what I'm saying? Like, you come here. I remember how, man, bro, I don't think I went. I'm gonna give you an example. I don't think I went to the club like a Love or something. I think like Dream was the first club I went in. You know what I'm saying?
But
I was like 20. I was like 24, but no. I was probably like 23, 22, 23. The first time I ever went into a club that, what I mean by that is like a traditional club that didn't not a go-go. You understand?
Because everything before was just go.
Yeah. Even at the time, it's like, I'm not going in. That's not for me. That's for them people from out of town or whatever the case may be. It's like day and night. You know what I'm saying? Like we was raised to like, we were so insulated. It's like this last, 15 to 18 years of my life has really also been about me maturing and growing and expanding. You know what I'm saying? And recognizing that people from other places can be good people. Like, that's like, we build a relationship. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always there.
But that's why I wanted to do this. Like, this has been sitting on my spirit. Like I said, real talk, probably the first 2 years I came in the city and I got the position. Like 2015 was my second year, 30. I was like, dang, like, I love this place so much, and I just wanted all to make sense and all to work. But I wanted to always make sure that it was a work in progress, and it wasn't just a, hey guys, yo, welcome me, accept me. Nah, it was like I need to just
use the word organic though. Yeah, use the word organic, and those relationships develop. And that's why I always salute you, and I appreciate you for that, because so many people don't have a respect for us. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of guys that I can name that, we cool now. We got great relationships now, but the relationships wasn't always there. Sure. I had to really, because of the fact that I felt like they wasn't respecting the native. And even now, that's why that native DC joint is so important to me, man. You know what I'm saying? Because even, you know what I mean? It's not just framed. Sometimes you get framed like, gentrifiers and all that. But even before that, a lot of times the native Washingtonian was excluded. You know what I'm saying? Was not acknowledged. You know what I'm saying? Even like I said, wherever it was in the club. And I think I was a bridge builder for that.
The middle child.
I was a bridge builder. Like that's a great. When you said that, I was like, yo, that make a lot of sense. That's real, though.
I like I said, of course, I know the whole backstory. I know how you grew up, so automatically that's a solid fist right there. But then you get another fist because, like, you doing the impossible, which is you're able to relate to the you're able to relate to the OGs. You're an OG to some already, and you look at the next generation coming, and they look at you as, yo, that's on a little story.
Yeah.
Saying like
man.
It's an all around like combustion when it comes to you. Like it's a whole aspect, bro, for real.
And I really appreciate that. And I think, we live in a time too where all the things that I talked about that happened here in the 80s and the 90s though, right? And you talk about us having some of the highest murder rates, highest incarceration rates. So many of the people that grew up with me and like I'm saying, our generation, like, we ain't make it. We was dying at 14, 15, 16 years old, or the perpetrators in those unfortunate crimes and going to jail at 16, 17, getting charged as adults. That's the time that I grew up in, right? And so why is that important? Why that's important is a lot of those guys left behind 16 to 17-year-old girlfriends that with babies in their stomach, right? And so you had a whole generation of young people in this town that grew up without somebody to pass back the culture and the information. So I've always seen myself as somebody who's been, been covered, been blessed, man. And so it'd be my duty to share like the information and like who we are you know, and what we are, you know, why that's important. And,
right.
you know, it's so many, again, and then when young people look to music, or they look to, you know, say YouTube, or they look to documentaries or whatever, you haven't had a whole lot of things told from our perspective. And
Right.
then often when they are, right, especially on the street side of things, you know what I'm saying, it's often being tied to somebody that wasn't from here.
Always.
And, you know what I'm saying?
Always.
And so it's not told, and it's not told truthfully.
Right.
And it's so even for that guy, you know, for him, for the guy, you know, Alpo, and then the guy my dad went to prison with. I don't like to talk about them guys a lot because
I get it.
they didn't, you know, we don't talk about people that's not accountable.
I get it.
I ain't gonna use no word like rat stamp. People that's unaccountable for their actions, I don't like to discuss them.
Happy.
But what I'm saying is that unaccountable guy, a lot of times, you know, people talk about him as it relates to Washington, but what they don't talk about is when you look at all them pictures in the quote unquote paid in full time, and then you look at the pictures from when he was down here, he wasn't that guy no more, because what people don't talk about is the influence that this city had on him. You feel what I'm saying? How he
right?
But the line tells the story, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Or the hunter, my bad, not the line. The hunter tells the story. You feel me? And sometimes from people's perspective, they don't tell the whole thing. And also one of the things about DC is we much more reserved than people from other places. Like that's just our demeanor. You know what I'm saying? We don't do that. You know what I'm saying? So
I feel like y'all always, and I'm just adding to exactly what you're saying, is from my perspective, I see exactly that DC, y'all are, if we're just talking about the DC man, y'all are a man's man, meaning it's all like solidarity, it's respect, and it's all type of, and you can see when somebody from out of town is coming and with the intention of, oh, I'm just going to take and take advantage and not try to whether extend an offering of, yo, can we collaborate, or this is what I'm here to do. It's almost like checking in without the street.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
But it's like, you know, just for a certain reverence. But, you know, then also I just feel like, and I think what's beautiful about the younger generation, though, is that we're free. I think we try to free them up, you know what I'm saying, to be themselves. If they want to be a little more outgoing than we have traditionally been,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Then I want them to do that, because I want them to say, damn, I could be Flexxa. Like, damn, I could do that. He got the charisma. I'm like that. You feel me? Right. Sometimes a young dude in DC, because that's not how you came up. We grew up with, it was so much trauma and carnage and shit that it really stifled your creativity. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't no options. And I'm not gonna make a broad like about nowhere in DC. I'm just saying, but most communities, man, you feel me? You had to be tough first. You could have been incredibly talented in a lot of other things, right?
Right.
Whether it was sports or comedy or science, right?
So you
had to be tough first. You had to be tough first, because you know that superseded everything else. Because if your grandmother or your mother sent you to the store to get them eggs or that bread, you had to bring it back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't know if people really understand. I can't speak, and I'm not saying that we the only place that was like that. You know what I'm saying? But I do know that this place, no matter where you came from in this town, for the most part, that's how it was, bro. And in the time that I grew up, it was so rampant on the metro bus, on the subway, or at your summer job, bro. Like, it ain't like these things happen, or these confrontations or this aggression happened when you got 17. I'm talking when you was 10 on that playground off the rip. Yes, you had to be a certain way. So when you get that, when that culture is so heavy, what happens subsequently is that your pursuits, your natural gifts, sometimes they just get, you know what I'm saying? They get deferred. They get deferred. You know what I mean? You start looking at
that kid right there that he just beat up 2 dudes or whatever. He could actually be something when it comes to the tech stuff, because his digital game, but that's getting overshadowed by.
It's in a way. That's right. That's right. And at that time, and you know, it's like, so like, even look at DC rappers now. If you was telling a DC rapper like, go ahead, man, give us something. That even if he could, that's not just in his nature, because that's we don't be doing all that, right? But a kid that came up in Brooklyn, you where hip hop was a part of his
a part of everything, right? Then it's gonna come
second nature. That's second nature, right? You see what I'm saying? That's why, like, these are the things that when you start seeing that middle child thing, like, I can make those connections and say this is why. Because I grew up with some dudes, bro. Listen, let me tell you something.
Please. That's what the Chocolate City story. That's
it was a dude. It was a dude named
Monty.
I know, right? It was a dude named Monty, bro. Monty a little older than me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Monty lived right on North Capitol and O. We used to be outside. We had a little go-go band around here. You know, people beating on buckets and doing their little thing. Monty used to want to rap, though. You hear me? He used to be beating on the mailbox, on shit, rapping, freestyling. We used to be like, bro, what the fuck? What you think you from New York or something like? Then let me tell you another thing. DC probably the only place on earth that, like, being from New York is not like a great thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's why we're here, Mr. Tony Lewis Jr. Let's just call the elephant out in the room.
Yeah, listen, but it is real shit.
I experienced that the first, and I've survived to tell the story and be accepted. But the first year or two, I could say that, yo, that is a real thing. And it's unfortunate only because it's the cats that they don't plan to set up shop and stay and grow a family down there. They're only passing through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm like, dude, y'all to my fellow New Yorkers, y'all are making it harder for me. That's a solid one, a real one. I'm coming from the right angle, and y'all are still making it different. But we already know with time.
But I think we're definitely in a better space today as we were, back then. But like when somebody would try to, rap, you know what I'm saying? Used to be like, man, what you doing? Like, we don't do that. If you rap, you know what I'm saying? You better be attached to a go-go band. You can't be no rapper. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just giving that as an example though, of like, that's why, so like being a part of helping the our local rap scene, or whatever you want to call it, back in the early 2000s for me, I'm talking about 2010s. You know what I'm saying? Around 2009, 2010.
Perfect. The timeline.
We moving around. I'm just saying, obviously too, before that, I had got when I was in 2000, I started doing violence interruption. That's my first job. You know what I'm saying? When God showed me my purpose, and I couldn't turn away from it. You know what I'm saying? So I would do that and really cement myself as a pillar in the community, somebody who, you know what I'm saying, could help and reach those that other people couldn't reach. And then by the time we get to like 2010, that's when I started to be able to leverage at that point, that 10 years of service, to say, hey man, we gotta support and we gotta push and help these young dudes from our from our city or from our area that doing their thing. And then namely at that time, Wale, of course, you know what I'm saying, and the whole, and then and then sort of my relationships that I had with Trey and G and Mo, you know what I'm saying, that predated that. And it was just like the perfect thing. They had the whole BOA movement, you know what I'm saying? And I just felt like it was time to, like, no, we got to support this. And it was a lot of little infighting going on amongst the guys who were in that world. I wasn't in that world, though, right? I come from the underworld, if you will, and my work was with the underworld. Absolutely. So I didn't know a lot of people that wasn't from that ilk. Right. You know what I'm saying? I was very familiar with the guys.
Growing up, and you're meeting people that are giving you new perspectives on how to look at stuff for the moment.
Nah, absolutely. Then my cousin Rodney, who went to Harvard, you know what I'm saying, and he when he graduated from Harvard, he worked on Wall Street. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? So he was one of the people that really, even when he was at Harvard, let me just show you how stuck I was. He went to Harvard for 4 years, man. Right. I never went up there. He used to be like, cuz, come up here, man. He played football and all that. If it wasn't happening around Hanover, around First, I wasn't. It didn't matter to me. That's what I'm trying to get.
And it didn't matter.
It didn't matter to me. Why am I going? I'm not going up there. That's all that shit. Why? We don't do that. You see what I'm saying? Because again, that's why I always tell people, bro, like my path wasn't linear. Like, I ain't just always plan to be who I am. Like, it really took a while. Like, it took me almost getting caught up in FBI indictments. Obviously, just the imminent threat of, my friends dying around me, family members down, also almost dying, potentially going to prison. Even in all my brilliance and my service and all, I still, because that's all I knew. We don't see nobody do nothing else. You feel me?
we're gonna do it type of thing.
You know what I mean? Yeah, in the street, that's all we did. You know what I mean? Every man, I don't know men around me got no job. You see what I'm saying? Like, for real now, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, that's why I've always been like very transparent. I don't say that with like pride. I don't say it with shame either, because they taught me so much. But my point, that's just my reality. So when he telling me to come up to Harvard, I'm like, for what?
It sounded like a total waste of a move, because you're gonna go there to see all the nice. You already know that Harvard is whatever.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to go. It ain't my vibe. He ain't my vibe. This is my blood cousin, but at that time, he not my vibe, because I got blinders on. Right? If you not doing no street shit, I'm not interested at that time in my life. Period. It's just the way it is.
By default.
I'm doing violence interruption. I mean, I was at UDC, you know what I'm saying? But I still was a street guy. I want to gamble all night, be in the crap joint, or, you know what I'm saying? And if not, and hang out around my way.
That's what
you feel what I'm saying? That's what I know. But my cousin Rodney, he didn't quit me though, right? He ain't stopped asking me to come and pull up. He the person I went to the club with for the first time.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, go to Dream. Yeah, I wasn't going in that shit. I wasn't trying to go. Then I was telling me to do Mark Bonds don't play go. You know what I'm saying? All of that was a real thing. Listen, talk to Mark, bro. Hey, if you ask Mark,
no,
you
just broke the news. I got Mark on this tomorrow. Perfect time.
My dog. Listen, I mean, and he'll tell you, and you know, like, just I was like, I ain't fucking with that. But then, like, Rodney, I really, you know, give him his credit for his role in my life in that way, right? And then also because see, then now it's crazy how God worked, because at the time I'm also feel like the walls closing in on me. Now, like I told you, I had just ducked the federal indictment. You know what I'm saying? People around me, you know, people still getting killed. So I'm like, yo, I need another outlet.
Yeah, you gotta see something different.
And so when I started to do that, but I grew up, I got a cousin, my Uncle Boo's children is by a woman who is from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up going up back and forth up New York. I spent 3 weeks in the summer up there growing up. I was very familiar with New York. I was more familiar with New York than him. I was like, bro, I'll come up with you, because I like New York. You know what I'm saying? I used to go back and forth anyway. So I'm like, yeah, I'll come up with you. So I started doing that. And then we started, you know what I'm saying, just hanging out in the city on a different wave, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, again, that's just, and then I'm growing professionally too at the same time. Then the Rayful American Gangster come out in 2007. Then the Cornell Jones American Gangster was in 2008. I'm on both of them. And this is like my platform, my notoriety, and people saw me on TV like, oh shit, I didn't know you do that. I didn't know you be doing this work. You know, it came into my program, my classroom, to show me teaching, you know, and stuff like that. And what that did, I'm gonna tell you why that was important.
Yeah, why was that important?
That was important because what it did for me, well, one, it just showed the work, right? It showed the importance of helping men and women return from prison get established. It's in 2007. But the other thing it did was I couldn't be in the club fighting. I couldn't be in the club, you know, I had a standard, because now everybody like, oh yeah, that's the dude. You understand? It put like
it recognized a little different now. It's looking different.
Looking different. So the expectation is different.
It's you know what I'm saying? On you that you can't control the expectation that the public is now giving.
Absolutely, right. And because up until that point, even when I started going in the club, like the club crowd didn't necessarily, I'm gonna say it was a lot of street guys in the club, you know what I'm saying, whatever, but it was a lot of, you know, professional guys, college guys or whatever. And in the go-go, the culture is different, right? Because in the go-go, the mindset is like anybody in here will do something to you.
Right.
So you're very respectful, because you know it could go left real fast, right? But in the club, it was like dudes was like bumping you, spilling drinks on you, wasn't saying it. Yeah, it was like, hey, let me holler at you, bro. You know what I'm saying? It really asked Mark. That's how me and Mark really built our relationship, based on me getting into stuff in the spot. You know what I'm saying? I never started nothing. I ain't gonna never start nothing.
Sure.
Respect is paramount where I come from. You know what I'm saying? So, but long story short, that's sort of how. But so then that we went through a couple instances about that.
Right.
Then American Gangster come out, and it's like, yo, like you can here fight, but you like, yeah. And so that really grounded me to say, bro, like now when you out, bro, people know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like
naturally, like things are different for real.
Exactly. And then we come back the next year with Cornell Jones, who I was our big homie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's from my block. That's sport. You know what I mean? He our, that's our, you
Right.
know what I mean? Big homie.
You think that was a deja vu moment of when you were growing up to the age of 9, once Pops went away? Do you think once you, the American Gangster special came out, everything's kicking off for you with you from speaking nationally and all of that and getting? Do you think that once you started to get that kind of notoriety, did you become a highlight? Because even in your book, I see that you, people say that you took a while to pretty much walk on a block because of how much people saying what up to you and all of that stuff from a young kid. So did you have that moment again in 2008-ish, 20?
Yeah, right? Yeah. This is what happened with that. It was like, again, amongst our culture, you know what I'm saying, people knew me already,
right,
like in the DC culture, right? From who I am and then the work I've done.
Absolutely.
People, I was, you know what I'm saying? But what that joint did was make a novice or a stranger recognize me, which was a little different.
You were so
yeah, exactly. And then recognizing me for, like, you know, again, also too, to recognize me for the work and the service,
right,
which was a beautiful thing. And then, you know, by the time Cornell come, that's a year, they're a year apart. By the time the 2008 American Gangsters come around, I'm even more comfortable in that space. So right. If you was to watch those things, my commentary on both is great, right? But in the Cornell one, it has more range. Gotcha. Because, you know, I had it, and then also the other part, the underlying thing was I had also by that time really accepted, like, damn, like this who I am. Like, I ain't going to jail, you know, because up until even when I was doing work, I said there's some point, man, like. I felt like my destiny was gonna be there. I really did. You know what I mean? No exaggeration, right?
But your mind elevation, though.
Tony. It is, bro. It is, and that joint freed me. Like, damn, bro, you gonna make it, and you have to make it because, and you making it, you helping other people make it, right? And so that's when I really like sort of started to completely walk into my purpose. So by the time 2010 come around, I'm able to leverage like all of that. Say, let's push DC or nothing. Let's push. You know, with BOA, let's push our brand. Let's help Wale, you know what I'm saying, and his amazing talent. You know what I'm saying? All of that is, you know what I'm saying, how that started to snowball. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, that's my connection to sort of the music piece. You know what I mean?
You're connected to all facets of the Chocolate City, and that's why this Chocolate City has no boundaries, meaning the range is endless from the Black-owned businesses that we see that are just thrive. I mean,
no doubt. But that decade we talking about too, we also started to see from 2000 to 2010 is really when, you know what I'm saying, the gentrification really started too. We started seeing the devalue, the de-investment into upward mobility for poor Black people, and more money invested into the infrastructure. This mission to move new residents in. You see what I'm saying?
With 8th Street, and correct me if I'm wrong, but was 8th Street it was at one point, it was the fastest growing neighborhood in the country for 8th Street, like just the corridor. Was that the first sections of DC to start getting massively gentrified?
Well, I think U Street happened first in a way, right? What happened though was, when you talking about 8th Street, bro, like I said, my program that that's my American Gangster came from was 609 8th Street, right across from where the Whole Foods is now. Like 8th Street, 8th and H is like one of the most.
AutoZone, ain't there like an AutoZone over there?
The AutoZone like on 11th, but the Whole Foods right on 6th and H, right on the corner. But that whole community was one of the most synonymous, one of the communities most synonymous with Black in this city. Right, 8th and H, like that's the blackest. You can't get no blacker than that in DC. So for what happened to 8th Street to have happened is what people really point to as the example of gentrification.
Got it.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like a mind fuck when you say, "Yo, I know what exactly Glenn when Murray's used to be right across the Whole Foods. It was a Murray Steakhouse and a DMV and a child daycare." Right there, and our office was right across the street, bro. You see what I'm saying? Right. So that whole 8th Street corridor from 3rd and H to Maryland Avenue, bro, was all Black. Like people, like you. And now when you start talking about in terms of residents, for that to almost be like a complete 180 in like a 12-year period. That's the other thing about gentrification in DC that don't get talked about enough. The speed of it.
It was fast, right?
bruh, like it's unprecedented, man.
Somebody here say day and night. They said our 8th Street went from day overnight, pretty much.
And if, I'm gonna tell you something about 8th Street. You start talking about day and night, right? Even right now, 8th Street in the day, even like my neighborhood during the day, it's still black people still are there. But you know, the later it get to night, though, the people that live there are there now. You see, late at night, 8th Street whiten up, man, because the residents, the foot traffic is for the people that live. In that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, not necessarily on a weekend, but I mean like on a Monday night. You know what I'm saying? You won't see the people that live in in that community.
Right.
So, but yeah, man, just again, we might need 4 hours to
really dig but that's deep, why this, bro, this is just chapter 1. This is
bro. But like that piece of what happened here, you know, when you start talking about like the entire Northwest, Columbia Heights, U Street, around our way, you know what I'm saying, where I'm at, like all of that, you see the turnover is incredibly is mind boggling, and it's not what people think they know, right? And if you just got here within the last 10 years, you can't even imagine. I can't even describe to you what it felt like. And like for me,
how drastically different it is.
And like I live in the same. I live in the same house. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm on my same block. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen it change. Like it ain't no. If you look for black native homeowners under 40 or 40 and under, bro, you're gonna be hard pressed. Wow. You know what I'm saying? We're black. The native Washingtonian is really in a state of emergency. If you look at incarceration rates, unemployment rates, mental health, if you look at homelessness, it's us. It ain't nobody else. Ain't no people. It's nobody else. It's us. It's black people from Washington.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of thriving black people in this city. But when you start talking about the native that's under 40 or 40 and under,
they're struggling.
And all of it has to do with, you know, what happened in the 80s and the 90s, and not just for what people did, because what I try to do in Slug was provide context for why was those decisions made, right? You know what I'm saying? Why did people feel a need to participate in criminality? It wasn't just about greed. It wasn't just about, you know what I'm saying? It was about survival.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like it's important. That's another thing, and I know I'm getting a rack of texts. I know the president must be addressing the nation. But again, we start talking about our humanity. People don't see it. They want to, you know what I'm saying? They want to throw us away our life. They make us the sum of one decision. It's no context. How did we get here? And systematic racism, oppression, all of that leads to, because my question is always, how does the biggest open-air drug market happen 10 blocks away from the U.S. Capitol? How? It ain't a port in D.C. It ain't a gun store in D.C. How that happen? And we the only ones that should be held accountable?
By far, no.
You know what I mean? So.
But look, we only got like a few more minutes, so I would be, of course, remiss not to at least get your take, like a minute, 60-second, George Floyd, everything.
Yeah.
From a DC level, like what you're seeing with the looting and the right.
Sure.
And
for sure.
Level. So,
man, I just say this, man. You know, first of all, rest in peace to Mr. Floyd, and God bless him and his family. Right now, you know, my take is that, you know, we cannot. It's like my aunt was talking about the '68 riots when they burnt DC down after Dr. King's.
Right.
The focus cannot be put on that. The focus got to be put on the atrocity that sparked that. If we stop the George Floyd's situation from happening, if we hold police accountable, all of these things that we have to do, with black people, you know, we got to organize. We got to become as pivotal, as formidable as these police unions, right? Politically, we have to organize and mobilize and activate in that way to demand change from a policy and a legislation standpoint. Other than that, it won't happen. And so when you next week, when you ain't mad no more, my question is, what you gonna do? Where you gonna volunteer? Who aid you gonna come to? You know what I'm saying? And
it's let out when it's not hot no more.
You understand what you gonna do? And that, because we've seen this, we've been here. Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, you know what I'm saying? Trayvon Martin, you know, Mike Brown, all that. We've been here. But this is a little different in the sense that I think it's just a culmination. People are tired. All people seem to be tired. And now the leadership, you know what I'm saying, from the top down. And the other thing I would say to any black person, man, out there, man, that can own a gun, get you a gun.
Tell them.
Guns have been demonized in our community, right? They've been demonized. Listen, the Second Amendment right talk about, you know what I'm saying, right to bear arms, right, to protect yourself. your life and liberty and your property against the government itself, right? So if we have in a time where the government, you know what I'm saying, bears down or turn against us as citizens, you want to be able to protect you and your family. This is a real thing. And guess what? White America understands that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? White America is very clear on that. That's a part of being an American.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now we know the Constitution wasn't necessarily written for us, but we are American. We as American as anybody.
American. We're still
American. As American as anybody. So you have to take up that right. Understand the power in that to defend you and your family and your liberty. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we all searching for, man. We want our freedom and our liberty, and we deserve it. And prayerfully, man, we all can come together so that we can obtain that. You know what I mean? But that's what this about. So I ain't mad at it. You can't be more mad about the destruction of infrastructure or the destruction of something material than you are about the destruction of life.
Aha. There it is. That's the way to wrap it up, man. Yo, Tony Lewis Jr., this was amazing. I almost feel like an out-of-body experience, and the way to kick it off, I would be remiss if it wasn't you, bro. So
I thank you, bro, and I thank you for really setting the wave and showing the way for anybody that moved to this city, man, to know that when you come with love, then we receive you with love. You know what I'm saying? I'm proud to call you my brother, man. Thanks for everything, bro.
Brother, man. Tony Lewis Jr. and forever free Tony Lewis. You know that. Yeah,
you already know. Shout out to the museum, too. I see we doing that. We ain't coordinate that either. That was just
coordinated.
That's what the real do.
Yo, thank you, OG. Appreciate you.
Peace, bro. Much love.